There's something about you that makes people uncomfortable, and you never had to say a single word. You didn't confront anyone. You didn't expose anyone. You didn't send a long message at midnight listing everything they did wrong. You just started seeing, and somehow that was enough to change everything. This video isn't about what happened to you. It's about what happened inside you, and why there's no going back from it. Pay attention to this. There's a specific kind of woman who reaches a point in her life where something shifts. Not loudly, not dramatically. There's no big argument, no explosive moment, no clear before and after. It happens quietly, like a light turning on in a room you didn't even know existed inside you. One day you're sitting across from someone you've known for years, a friend, a partner, a family member, and you notice something, a small inconsistency, a story that doesn't quite match the one they told you 6 months ago, a reaction that doesn't fit the emotion they're performing, something subtle, something most people would scroll right past, but you don't. You hold it. You turn it over in your mind. You don't say anything in that moment, because that's not how you work, but something in you files it away, quietly, precisely. And that's where it begins. Most people go through life taking things at face value. They hear words and believe the words. They see a smile and feel warmth. They're told, "I care about you," and they hold on to that phrase like it's proof of something real. You used to do that too. But at some point, and you probably can't pinpoint exactly when, you stopped reading the words and started reading the space between the words. You started noticing what people said when they thought no one was really listening. You started feeling the tension in a room before anyone acknowledged it. You started sensing when something was off, even when everything on the surface looked perfectly fine. And here's what nobody tells you about that kind of awareness. It doesn't come with an instruction manual. It doesn't arrive with a warning. It just shows up one day, and suddenly you can't unknow the things you know. That's not a gift everyone has. While other women were still giving second chances to people who had already shown them the truth, you were sitting in silence, not because you had nothing to say, but because you had already seen enough. You don't need to announce what you've noticed. You don't need them to confess. You don't need closure from someone who was never honest to begin with. You just adjust. You take a small step back. You become a little less available. You stop sharing the parts of yourself that require real trust, not in anger, not in revenge, just in clarity. And that's exactly what makes people uneasy around you. Because here's what they feel, even if they can't name it. They feel that you see them, not the version of themselves they carefully constructed for the world to consume, not the performance, not the highlights, the real thing underneath, the contradiction, the agenda, the fear hiding behind the confidence, the insecurity hiding behind the aggression. You don't say it, but they feel it. And nothing is more threatening to a person living inside a performance than someone who isn't impressed by it. Pay close attention to this part. The moment you started waking up to the truth of people, something started happening in your relationships that you may have been confused about for a long time. People started pulling away from you, or becoming defensive around you for no apparent reason, or speaking about you with a tension they couldn't quite explain, or accusing you of being too much, too cold, too distant, too intense. Here's what was actually happening. They could feel that you were no longer fooled, and that terrified them. Because when you stop believing someone's performance, they have two choices: drop the act and show you something real, or remove themselves from the discomfort of being seen. Most people choose the second option. Most people would rather leave than be honest. And for a while, that probably hurt. You probably looked at the empty spaces where people used to be and wondered if something was wrong with you, if you were too hard to be around, if your depth was actually a flaw, if you pushed people away. But that wasn't it. You didn't push them away. You just stopped pretending not to see what they were showing you. There's a specific kind of loneliness that comes with this kind of perception, and nobody talks about it openly. But you know exactly what it feels like. It's the loneliness of being in a room full of people and still feeling completely alone. Not because no one is talking to you, but because no one is saying anything real. You sit through conversations that feel like theater. You smile at the right moments. You give the right responses. But somewhere inside you, there's a quiet exhaustion, because you're performing presence in a place where nothing feels genuine. That exhaustion is real. And it's not because you're broken. It's because you've grown past the level of connection that most people around you are willing to offer. Think about how you used to be. There was a version of you, maybe not so long ago, who tried harder, who explained more, who gave people the benefit of the doubt even when they had already spent it, who came back after being hurt because maybe this time it would be different, who apologized for having feelings that were completely valid. That version of you wasn't weak. She was trying. She genuinely believed that if she loved people the right way, they would eventually show up in the way she needed. But then she started seeing. And what she saw wasn't cruelty necessarily. It wasn't that everyone around her was a monster. It was something more subtle, and in some ways, more devastating. She saw that most people were not thinking about her the way she was thinking about them, that the concern was not equal, that the effort was not mutual, that while she was processing everything deeply, analyzing, feeling, staying up wondering if she had done something wrong, other people had already moved on without a second thought. That realization doesn't leave you the same. Here's the thing about seeing clearly. It's not comfortable, not for you, and not for the people around you. Clarity has a weight to it. It means you can no longer pretend. You can no longer sit across from someone who has shown you their character and act like it's a mystery. You can no longer perform closeness where there is none. You can no longer smile at things that actually hurt you. And so you became quieter. Not because you have less to say, but because you became very selective about who deserves to hear it. Not because you stopped caring, but because you got very precise about where your care actually goes. Not because you're cold, but because warmth for you is no longer something you give out for free to people who treat it like it costs nothing. That's not emotional damage. That's emotional intelligence that most people never reach. And this is where everything changes. Because the story most people tell about a woman who pulls back, who goes quiet, who becomes harder to reach, is that she's damaged, that she needs to heal, that she's closed off, that she's missing out on connection. But that story was written by people who benefited from your openness, people who liked you better when you couldn't see them clearly, people who called your naivety sweetness and your awareness coldness, because when you were naive, you were easier to manage. The moment you started trusting your own perception, the moment you stopped overriding your instincts with other people's explanations, you became someone they couldn't predict, someone they couldn't redirect, someone they couldn't guilt into compliance. And they called that a problem. It wasn't. The women who make people most uncomfortable are never the loudest ones in the room. They're not the ones who confront every injustice publicly or build arguments that leave no room for exit. They're the ones who simply see and let that seeing quietly reorganize everything around them. You walk into a room and people feel something shift, not because you announced anything, not because you performed a reaction, just because your presence carries a kind of attention that makes it impossible to hide. People sense, on some instinctive level, that their usual strategies won't work on you, that their usual excuses won't land, that the version of themselves they present to the world won't be the one you actually respond to. That kind of awareness is not something you chose. It was built in you through experience, through pain, through being disappointed enough times that your nervous system started doing the work of protecting you before your mind even caught up. It's not a curse, even when it feels like one. There will be moments, and maybe you've already had them, where you almost wish you could go back. Back to before you could see the patterns. Back to when someone's words were enough. Back to when you could sit in a friendship and feel warmth without your mind already running a quiet audit of its consistency. You can't. And the grief that comes with that is real. It is a loss. The loss of a simpler way of moving through the world. The loss of a certain kind of innocence that, once gone, doesn't come back. But what replaced it, that's yours now. The capacity to sit in uncertainty without needing someone to fill it with false comfort. The ability to stay silent when others are performing. The instinct to withdraw before the damage is done instead of after. The clarity to recognize love from obligation, care from manipulation, loyalty from convenience. These are not things that just anyone carries. You didn't arrive here by choosing discomfort. You arrived here because you paid attention when it would have been much easier not to. Because you stayed honest with yourself when the comfortable lie was right there, available, waiting. Because something in you refused to stay small in exchange for acceptance. That refusal has a cost. The loneliness is real. The distance is real. The The moments of sitting with your own perception and wondering if the clarity is worth the isolation. Those are real too, but so is this. You are someone who cannot be easily deceived anymore. You are someone who reads situations before they unfold. You are someone who moves through the world with a kind of internal compass that most people spend their entire lives trying to find, and never do. The awareness you carry is not a wound that didn't heal. It is scar tissue that became armor. You didn't become distant because something broke in you. You became precise because you finally started believing what you saw. And the people who couldn't survive that, they were never really there for you to begin with. You already knew that. You've known it for a while, that's exactly the point.